The History Boys, big screen adaptation of Alan Bennett's smash stage play about grammar school boys in the 1980s vying to get into Oxbridge. We have already heard from one of the cast earlier on today. Barnstorming, central performance by Richard Griffith, obviously both on stage and in the movie, because it is substantially same script, same cast, same director. Now, I went to see History Boys on stage at the NFT with this cast and this production, this screenplay, and I thought it was absolutely belting. I thought it was fantastic. I laughed, I cried, I was moved by it, I was swept along by it. I thought it was absolutely wonderful, and certainly one of the best experiences I've had this year. I saw the revival of it rather than the first year, because I think it opened 2 years ago. And I went in to see the film with fairly high expectations as a result of that, because it is substantially same script, same cast, same director, even same musical cues, the use of things like the Smiths, all of which is taken directly from the stage play. And as I watched it on film, I just kept thinking, why isn't this working? Why isn't this lively and funny and vibrant and entertaining in the way that the original was? And it's a very difficult thing. Translating stage plays to the screen takes a certain kind of magic, and it can happen. I mean, you look at The Madness of King George, of course, behind his own back catalogue. It is perfectly possible to put stage plays on screen in a way that works. You look at Glengarry Glen Ross, which was always said, you can't make a good stage play of it, but of course James Foley you can't make a good film of it, but James Foley did a brilliant film adaptation. It was very sinuous, it was very muscular, it was a piece of cinema. The History Boys as a play is terrific. The History Boys as a film just lies there on the screen. And now, I don't doubt that if you hadn't seen the play and what you were doing was simply hearing the Bennett screenplay for the first time, that there would be much to admire. Also, I should stress that the cast are terrific in doing what they did on stage, but it's not the right way to do it on screen. Now, I couldn't do it. I couldn't fix it. I can't tell you why it is that it doesn't work. All I can tell you is that watching it was a very, very strange and disappointing experience, because I just kept thinking, I remember this bit in the play. I remember the waves of pleasure of being in the theatre with it.
But if you didn't see it in the theatre, you're coming and you didn't hear it on the radio when it was on there, so this is the first time you see the story?
Well, I cannot tell you because I had seen it in the theatre, and therefore this slightly clouds my judgment. And I am sure that if you hadn't seen it in the theatre, you would get something from this. But what I can tell you is that what you won't get from this is a great film. It's not well directed. It's very dull visually. It's very forced, even in its shot counter shot, structure. It's just clunkily directed, and it's very strange to see just how ragged the thing is put together, because there's so much going on behind that direction. What you want to do is you literally want to grab hold of the camera. You want to get somebody, in my mind, you'd get Ken Russell, you'd stick him behind the camera. You'd get somebody who had a visual sense. It's just absolutely lacking in the quality of cinema. And I say this with no pleasure, because I really wanted to love it, and I really loved the stage play, and I really loved the intention of it. And I think that it's good to have a record of a stage play that was so ripping. And also, I'm a huge Alan Bennett fan. I think A Private Function is, the great Michael Palin film. This just isn't it. And I really, often I know I sound like I'm enjoying myself when I kick a movie, and I don't take any relish in saying this, because I so wanted it to work, and maybe part of my desire for it to be better was the thing that made it.
Maybe everything else, people who haven't seen it will enjoy it more if this is the first time that they see the story.
I'm sure,
because that script sounds fantastic.
No, Simon, I am sure that's the case.